Hello and welcome to my astrological read for the full moon of Scorpio. My name is Colette and my channel is Inspiring Life Changes, and the reading that I'm doing today, like I said, is for the full moon that is taking place in Scorpio on the 27th of April if you're in the UK. Elsewhere in the world it's taking place on the 26th. So this is my intuitive interpretation of what is taking place in the sky at this time. I usually write out notes and then I write it up on my laptop, so I will be reading it from my laptop because it's the easiest way for me to do it, because there's a lot to remember and it kind of confuses me if I don't have all the information there in front of me. So I'm calling this reading today Full Supermoon in Scorpio, Shocking Revelations Bring Intense Emotional Release. And it is a powerful, cannot stress enough how powerful and intense this full moon is going to be. In Scorpio it's intense enough, but being a super full moon means that the moon is going to be even closer to our planet. So we are going to feel it even more intensely. So at the time of the full moon, the divine masculine sun energy is opposing the divine feminine moon energy. So the super full moon is taking place in the intense, deeply subconscious, watery realm of the sign of Scorpio. It is happening on the 27th of April at 04:32 hours UK time at the 7° and 6' mark of the 8th house of Scorpio. If you have any planets or points that fall within the 02 to 12 degrees, you will most definitely be feeling the extremeness of this intensely powerful super full moon energy. Also, if you have anything between the degree points in any of the other fixed signs, that is Leo, Aquarius, and very importantly at this time also Taurus, you will also be feeling this really intensely. So you may also want to check out your own chart to see where those degrees of this super full moon energy fall for you personally in the house it is showing up in, where it will be, where you will see it manifest. So whichever house it falls in for you personally is where it's going to manifest its energy the strongest. And I will be leaving a free natal link in the description box down below for you to go and check the chart out for yourself if you don't already have your chart, so you can find out which house it is. You need your time, your date and your place of birth, and then you can find out what it means for you on a personal level. So this is the second super full moon in a row, the last one being when the big ship, the Ever Given, became stuck in the Suez Canal. It was the extra high tide at that time which helped to release her. One of the things we can expect at this time from this full super moon energy is extreme high tides. As this time she is also in a water sign, whereas before in Libra she was in an air sign, and even then the tides were strong enough to be able to lift that massive tanker up enough in order for it to be able to be released from being stuck where it was. So yeah, this time water energy, which means that not only is it going to have an effect on our tides, but it will also have an effect on our bodies as well, because the moon rules our bodies, the fluid in our bodies, our emotions in particular. It will have an extra effect and pull on our emotions as well as our psyches, and also the tectonic plates of Earth herself. The full moon is always a time of completion, culmination, bringing something to a close, ending something off. this full moon is going to see something come to a head, which could feel like a tsunami of emotion, as Scorpio is the most intense out of all the 3 water signs. So Scorpio is the 8th sign in the zodiacal cycle. It is best known for its ruling over sexual interactions, which is also why it corresponds with birth, death and rebirth, transformation, as well as the much ignored idea of reincarnation. Scorpio is also the ruler of the male and female genitalia, both of which are very much under attack at this present time. Both the 8th house and Scorpio are ruled by Pluto, the planet of power, structures and power systems. Intensity, destruction, poisons, toxins, obsessions, endings, and all things hidden below the surface, including hidden treasures. Scorpio is seen as being a deeply mysterious sign, with hidden depths so deep, in fact, that they themselves may not know or understand the depth of their own emotions. Scorpio is opposite Taurus, the 2nd house energy, which represents our personal possessions, our personal finances, and our values around what we hold near and dear, people, places, things in general. Whereas the sun in Taurus is illuminating the moon in the house of other people's money. Taxes, wills, inheritance, legacies, joint resources, your business partner, the finances of your marital partner, as well as bankruptcy and alimony. All of this is being highlighted at this time, along with the world of the occult, which literally means hidden, occulted, secret knowledge. We can also experience higher senses of intuition, psychic ability, coming to the forefront during the time of a Scorpio full moon. Doubly so when it's a super full moon we are dealing with. Once again, we continue the theme of having a stellium of planets in the same sign. The sun is frequenting. So stellium means that there's 3 or more planets all in the same sign. But we've been seeing this continuous pattern of this occurring with the sun, of having either 3, 4, 5 planets all in the same sign, or energies in the same sign. So here we find the sun sharing the space with Uranus, Venus and Mercury, the last 2 of which are both in conjunction with Black Moon Lilith, who is still working her way through Taurus. She's now at 20 degrees, 53 or 21 degrees. The sun is making connections with 8 different energies at this time, 9 if we include the moon. He is conjunct Mercury at 16 degrees 20 minutes, Venus at 15 degrees 17 minutes, and Uranus at 10 degrees 28 minutes. He is sextile to Mars, who has now entered Cancer at 2 degrees and 13 minutes, who is square to Saturn. The sun is square to Saturn at 12 degrees 57 or 13 degrees in Aquarius. And we also have Clavico there as well, who is just loosely conjunct Saturn at 4 degrees and 10. So she's also squaring the sun. Lastly, he's in a semi-sextile with Chiron at 10 degrees 30 minutes in Aries, who is still helping us to heal our collective wounding. So over on the other side of this opposition, we have the moon opposing Mercury, Venus and Uranus. She is trine Mars and Jupiter, as Jupiter at 27 degrees 47 minutes or 28 degrees is getting ready to leave Aquarius, at least for a while, and enter into Pisces on the 14th of May. So basically Jupiter is nearer to the Piscean energy, which means that she is trining across to the moon in Scorpio, even though Jupiter is still in Aquarius and in an air sign. The angle is enough for it to change from being a square to a trine. So Saturn is squaring the moon from the same sign as Jupiter, all about angles and degrees, as is Clarico, also squaring the moon. The moon is also semi-sextile to the dwarf planet Makemake, or Makemake. It's written Makemake, but it's pronounced Makemake, who's at 6 degrees 18 minutes in Libra, which also adds up to 8 separate energies, 9 again if we include the Sun, which all seems fair and evenly balanced, as this particular full moon is also creating a T-square with Saturn in Aquarius. We are witnessing this with 7 planets, all in fixed signs, with the fulcrum balancing point being the planet Saturn. This means on an energetic level it is still constricting and holding us back. From another perspective, it is giving us the time to ground ourselves and our more revolutionary humanitarian ideals into our reality. So we've got the Sun and everything in Taurus on one side, we've got the moon and on her own on this side, and then we've got Saturn up here, say, bringing that balancing point between, so there's a square and this T-square happening at the same time. And Saturn being that kind of like focal point, so the energies are kind of heading towards Saturn. So Saturn's playing a big part in this energy at this time. But not only is Saturn playing a big part, but we'll talk more about that later. So there will be a lot of determined willpower to stay with something, not to give up easily, which is great on one level. However, this can also become a resistance to knowing when enough is enough. There is a fine line between determination and stubbornness. With so much activity in Taurus at this time, it could easily become a dig the heels in situation. A lot of fixed energy, a lot of fixed, 7 planets in fixed signs. It's a lot of fixed energy. So the moon and the sun could bring up to the surface a lot of deeply buried emotional hidden fears, which we may not even be aware we have, especially around the idea of money in our lives and the values we have, possibly on an ethical and moral level. There is a massive desire to break free, revolutionise and transform that. With all this tension from the opposition and square energies, everything is being stretched so tight. I mean, it's literally like being pulled apart further and further and further and further, like a big rubber band that eventually has to just give. Something has to eventually give and snap. So adding to all this tenseness is the fact that the ruler of Scorpio, Pluto, has just stationed retrograde at 26 degrees 48 minutes 27 degrees in Capricorn at 1 o'clock UK time. So literally a few hours previous to the full supermoon happening. In his and the full moon, of course, is happening in Pluto's home sign. So this means that from our perspective on Earth, Pluto is stopping still. He's standing still in the sky. And the energy of Pluto at this time will be greatly magnified, because that's what happens when a planet stands still. Its energy is magnified even more. So that is also going to be bringing an extra level of extreme intensity, as if we didn't have enough already. Pluto went into his shadow period at 24 degrees 18 minutes on the 4th of January, at the beginning of this year, while he was conjunct Mercury and square Mars, during which time we saw questionable and dishonest actions from those in positions of power, along with the media coverage, as well as a lot of suppressed, outspoken voices and buried emotions coming to the surface all across the world for many various different reasons. Pluto has now been slowing down for the last month. At the time he stations, he will himself still be creating a T-square with the two other dwarf planets. Eris at 24 degrees 14 minutes in Aries, who he will be travelling back towards, as Pluto retrograde will stop at 24 degrees 18 minutes. At the same time it started, 1 o'clock UK time, roughly 5 months later from now, on October the 6th. Eris is the goddess of discord, disharmony, chaos, strife and feisty behaviour in general. She is also a spiritual warrior, looking for authenticity, especially in Aries. She is willing to expose all deception, lies and corruption, who is, in my opinion, responsible for so much of the outrage that we are experiencing in her long-lasting and ongoing connection with Pluto. They have been squaring together for the last year. So even though they're not going to become exact again, they're still not pulled away from that square. It's still an ongoing issue, which we experienced last year. There was actually 3 times that Pluto and Eris became exact. So a lot of all that kind of flaring up energy that we saw, shall we say, had a lot to do with Pluto squaring Eris at that time. So Pluto is helping to dig up the buried dirt for Eris to bring out onto the streets for our attention. Eris has been in the headstrong initiating battle zone of the sign of Aries since 1922, meaning just about everyone on the planet has Eris in Aries somewhere in their birth chart. Therefore, she will be being triggered by other planets and points, even if we are not aware of it. We will be affected by it. In mythology, Eris is the sister of Ares, Mars, and she would accompany him into battle. It is said she would stay on the battlefield longer than Mars, who would leave. So while when the fight was over, Eris would still be out there, kind of reveling in all the aftermath, shall we say, and all the disharmony and all the disruption that she'd managed to cause. So the Greeks attributed the 100-year War of Troy to Eris, which is interesting in itself, as that is roughly how long she has been in Aries. I don't know how long she stays in any of the other signs, but she seems to spend a lot of time in the sign of Aries. And I believe her full cycle is something like 500 years, so she must kind of speed up through some of the other signs. We have also recently experienced the Sun, Venus and Mercury cross over Eris, as well as the highly sensitive area where Mars went retrograde in 2020. This area has just been recharged during March and April. More importantly, so has everyone's natal Eris, which has a good percentage of the older generation who are still stuck in the old paradigm way of thinking, fired up, wanting to flex their muscles and show their power on the world stage. If you've had your ear to the ground, you will have heard a lot of the hot rhetoric and ramping up of certain volatile and dangerous situations, with certain countries preparing to protect their territory. I also don't think it's any coincidence that once again during this time we have heard shouts for defunding the police, which are once again becoming very vocal, as Aries also rules all things to do with the military and forcefulness. The second dwarf planet squaring Pluto and opposing Eris is another female energy, known as Haumea, named after the Hawaiian goddess of fertility and creativity, especially volcanic activity, and giving birth to the land itself. So back then, it would have seemed that volcanoes were kind of, as they were pouring forth this lava, and all this lava kind of hardened and turned into land, that she was literally kind of giving birth to this new land. So of course they kind of gave this energy a name and a persona. So Haumea is sitting at 27 degrees 42. She is also retrograde. She will continue to square Pluto and turn station direct on the 11th of July at 26 degrees and 49 minutes, literally just 1 minute away from where Pluto originally stationed. Eris will be at 24 degrees 46 minutes and Pluto will have reached 25 degrees 42. So this is a really tight T-square of energy that we're talking about here. And the Haumea energy, for me personally, I see it very much as a representation of planet Earth, of the female creative, creative fertility and everything that is represented through birthing, through mothering, through that whole kind of idea of a goddess energy, which has been missing from our psyches and from our history, from our writing, from everything for too long. Too long. I was going to say a long time, but it's just like too long. It's like now the female energy needs to be put back to where it should be. So for me, that's what the Haumea energy is representing here. And Eris is pretty much the same. Eris energy just wants to be noticed. It's the suppressed and oppressed female warrior energy that hasn't been allowed to be recognised down the centuries, because we had to behave a certain way and fit into a certain style, which today would be known as a kind of stereotypical style, but in some ways that was our natural function, but that in itself has been kind of taken out of context. But I digress. So anyway, back to my reading. So as I was saying, we have 3 dwarfs in a tight T-square, as well as all the full super moon energy. So we have 2 T-squares in fact taking place at this time. So we have a lot of squaring energy kind of in our faces as well as behind the scenes. So we can expect to see major upheavals and dynamic changes, radical transforming energies on a planetary level, with more volcanoes, disruptive shifts in the Earth's crust and an uptick in earthquakes. On the more personal level, we could see disruptions in the field of banking, personal and shared finances, our physical bodies and body image. The energy is that of revolutionary, awakening, sudden, unexpected and out of the blue, shocking and life-transforming chaos. If you think it's been bad so far, massive changes are still to come. So on the 23rd of April, Venus and Uranus became conjunct exact at 10 degrees 13 in Taurus, the home of Venus, the planet of beauty, love of all good things, relationships, finances, well-being and values. And she is still hidden out of sight behind the sun, waiting to re-emerge. If this conjunction has taken place for you in the 5th, 7th or 11th house, you will experience this with regard to your relationships, whether that be children, intimate partner or friendships. With Uranus involved, the best thing said is expect the unexpected, regardless of whichever house it falls in. It will bring long-lasting effects and change into our lives. Both Venus and Uranus are square with Saturn during their conjunction, bringing some stability, structure, grounding, and possibly for some, a strong sense of responsibility amid the chaotic energy we will be going through at the time. Venus will continue in this square until the last day of April. On the 1st of May, she will reappear in our northern skies as the beautiful light of the evening star. In the southern hemisphere, she'll appear as the morning star. So the following day, on the 24th of April, Mercury will also conjunct Uranus, exact at 10 degrees 18 minutes. This conjunction is like little mundane mind, or as I prefer to call it, monkey mind, which is meets a huge cosmic, expansive, creative, out there, beyond mind. So Mercury will be tapping into that of the super conscious awareness, which is like getting an upgrade, a leveling up of, or downloads, a leveling up, sorry, of downloads, a new data and new information, higher frequencies that will open us up quickly and sudden flashes of inspiration that can cause untold chaos, while also awakening our mind to possibilities we didn't even begin to realise existed. So it's like suddenly having your mind plugged into different parts of your brain, like things suddenly kind of like coming alive in a way. Uranus is the future, or should I rephrase that as the potential future that is yet to come, as the energy of Uranus is all about change, constant change. It is this reason the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in the sign ruled by Uranus is such a major shift of energy for our collective psyches. That was the conjunction. The Saturn-Jupiter conjunction was the one that happened on the 21st of December. But it happened in Aquarius, so Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, so that energy is very, very prevalent at this time. And it is a major shift in the energy of our collective our collective psyches and consciousness, because the two planets that conjunct every 20 years, they meet up every 20 years. So if you're hearing people say that it only happens every 200 years, that is not true. It happens every 20 years. But the major thing about this is that it hasn't happened in anything other than an earth sign, except for once. And I have a friend whose birthday was actually that year. So for 199 years, as my daughter insists that I say, these two planets, Saturn and Jupiter, met up in earth signs, which is why we've had all this really dense, heavy, physical, like really focused on that energy, that denseness, the physical, the environment. It's been very much for the past 199 years, 200 years, very much a part of our psyche, our driven. It's where we've been focused. Our attention has been focused very much in that space of the physical domain, and why everything seemed to become very solid and set in stone, and you couldn't kind of argue major again, set in stone, like things that have been kind of decided, this is how it is, like, you know, don't argue it, don't kind of, you know, the experts know, so why do you think you know any better kind of attitude to that. But that has now shifted. That energy is moving away because of the fact that we've now experienced a major shift, and from now on, the next 200 years, these planets will meet up every 20 years in a air sign. So that's kind of opening things up for us. And it's going to guarantee liberation and freedom. It will come from this. Uranus is here to revolutionize and turn the status quo upside down, particularly in Taurus. Even though Taurus and Taurians may not be very happy about it, it's happening. So, as such, we may also begin to see a lot more of hidden, innovative technology come to the fore. At the time of this super full moon, technologies that may literally have been kept underground, in the dark and out of sight. These may find their way to the surface or into the light due to leaks from the press, Mercury rules communication and our media in general. But this also includes alternative news sites that are becoming ever more trusted and popular, which is another very Aquarian collective networking energy. So it's kind of bypassing the major news sources that have kind of controlled everything for so long, and people are turning more to the kind of alternative scene, networking together to find out what really is the story behind what we're being told. It's all very Aquarian energy. So in short, we are moving into a time of dramatic changes on our planet, some of which is going to include full disclosure about our true history and the crafts that are regularly frequenting our skies, as well as all the underworld activities, and the vast majority of the population has no idea, which will come as a shock to many. Uranus energy again, shocking, something out of the blue. I also will just say that I personally believe that full disclosure is already in process of happening. Things that are coming out lately, if you've been keeping your ear to the ground, you will be aware of the videos that are coming out from Navy sources, military sources, and it's all being said, yes, this is how it is, this is the truth, these are real, and they don't belong to us. So another thing that could become highlighted at this time are the changes in the weather patterns, especially as we continue to see dramatic shifts and upheavals, earthquakes and volcanoes. As 3 days after the super full moon, on the 30th of April, Uranus becomes conjunct with the Sun at 10 degrees 40 minutes, while trining the moon, who has just crossed over the axis Mundi, or what's known as the world stage, one of the world stage points, which is all of the cardinal signs, is known as the world stage. So that's Cancer and Capricorn, Aries and Libra. So whenever a planet crosses over any of those points, whatever the energy is about comes forth and is seen on the world stage. So the moon at this time, when Sun and Uranus conjunct, is trining across to their energy from Capricorn, and she's also opposing Mars at the same time. So this super powerful major awakening activity for our Sun, which is in the early stages of its solar cycle and throwing out coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, which will be having a huge effect on our magnetic field and our planet. Then there is Uranus, which has also been seen to be flaring and showing signs of electrical storms on its surface. The more the magnetic field drops, the more the cosmic rays are getting through, which is also having a psychological effect on each and every one of us at some level. I've spoken about this in some of my other write-ups as a higher frequency that is too much for some people to handle, and how this emphasizes their lower vibrational frequencies even more. The Scorpio super full moon could definitely bring out some disturbing emotional sides of our human nature, as Scorpio has that darker side of jealousy, revenge, sexual gratification, obsession, lust and desire, with Black Moon Lilith at 20 degrees 53 or 21 degrees, conjunct both Mercury and Venus, while also trining the ruler of Scorpio. Black Moon Lilith is an energy similar to Pluto, except in my opinion darker and more excessive, as she rules over all things taboo, particularly of the torrid, dark, sexual type. Over the fortnight and possibly beyond, as Scorpio, especially to do with sex. So anything we may hear or read about at this time are scandals, particularly of the torrid, dark sexual type, over the fortnight and possibly beyond. As Scorpio loves a good juicy scandal and Taurus loves a good gossip. This combination could be, as the saying goes, loose lips sink ships. Another thing to note here, because we are dealing with Plutonian energy, this will more likely than not involve those in positions of high power and places, and with Uranus also in play, fortunes can be lost in the blink of an eye. So this Black Moon Lilith energy added to the Scorpio energy is another layer of intensity, another layer of kind of bringing things into the light from the dark, the things that are kind of hidden, the secret that go on behind closed doors, backroom deals, that kind of thing under the surface, things that are not up above board, shall we say, not morally acceptable to most people. So fiery Mars, as well as being sextile the Sun and trine the Moon, is also trine Jupiter, while he continues to be out of bounds, meaning he is beyond 23 degrees latitude, either north or south of the Sun's ecliptic. This is making Mars feel unanswerable to anyone, wild and rebellious, like a wayward son being given a long leash by its parents to see how far he will go until he realises his own mistakes. The Sun and Moon, however, are still supporting him, kind of like letting him know that they are still there for him as concerned parents, yet at the same time understand his need for freedom. Mars has just gone over the 0 degree point of Cancer on the 23rd, activating two separate issues here. Firstly, this is another one of those cardinal initiating axis mundi or world stage points, meaning that this energy will likely be seen on the world stage in some form or another. Secondly, this is the exact spot where the powerful new moon solar eclipse took place on the 21st June 2020, summer solstice for those in the northern hemisphere, winter for those in the south. Mars has just reawakened that energy, but he has also brought something to a close, as that is one of the roles of Mars, to cut off the energy from previous eclipses. So whatever was initiated at that time collectively has now run its course. Trining Jupiter while doing so will have given one last extra boost of potential, hope, joy, expansion, magnification and optimism to the situation which was begun back then. So Mars trining Jupiter from Aquarius began very early days of April, bringing out the collective humanitarian objectives, helping us to see things from a higher vantage point, like looking down from a mountaintop and enlarging our view for us to see the bigger picture with more clarity. Jupiter will also be expanding the courageousness of Mars, our inner warrior, fire, drive and passion, which in Cancer, Mars is in a position of weakness, as feelings, emotions, intuition and nurturing are not Mars' fortes. Mars tends to feel lost and confused in any of the water signs. Cancer being the sign of the mother, home, kindness, gentleness, safety and security can be very baffling to an energy that thrives on action, pushing forward and risk-taking. Mars is having to learn to trust on a deeper instinctual knowing that what feels right is right. It feels like Mars is learning a big lesson at this time to trust himself while also allowing others to support him in the process, which could also show up around family issues, particularly around the ideas of mothers. Again, with Jupiter being in Aquarius, this could well include the larger family or friends, networking and coming together and working together for the greater good of humanity. Lastly, we are still in the ongoing continuation of the Great Divide, which I wrote about many times in previous astro reports. The old paradigm control system of Saturn versus the new paradigm liberating system of Uranus, which also was highlighted greatly during the North and South Node T-square with Neptune in 2020, in a much more subtle and not so obvious fashion. Now, with the clashing of the two giants squaring, it is becoming harder and harder to ignore, as people are openly choosing their side, due mostly to whichever energy we vibrate with, and how awake we may or may not be, as to the depth we have been prepared to go, to look behind the veil, and see the spell that Neptune has weaved around us, slowly, over the last 2,000 years. Over 2021, we will experience a quickening of the breakdown of the old control systems, as Uranus continues to throw everything into disarray around us. So the Sabian symbol for the 0 degrees of Scorpio is deep sea divers. And the keynote here is the will to explore the hidden depths of all experiences and to search for primordial causes. This symbol essentially refers to depth psychology, a coming to terms with the collective unconscious and its contents. This type of depth plumbing adventure is basically different from the one symbolised by the gold rush, for it can take place within the individual and with no relation to social value. It refers symbolically to a quest for under-standing, i.e. for what lies under the surface, waves of daily living. This quest may lead to great dangers. It demands a strong will and good breathing, i.e. a degree of spiritual strength. It usually challenges powers hidden in the depths of the unconscious. The contrast between deep sea divers and men of the gold rush is significant. It presents in an interesting manner the opposition between a first stage and second stage symbol in the fivefold sequence of cyclic phases. The inward quest opposes the outward search for the great social symbol, gold. It should lead to a depth realization of the very roots of consciousness. So it is about going into the depths of our own emotions and digging up that buried treasure, even if that buried treasure seems to be something that is negative or doesn't feel right or it doesn't glisten or like a false gold in a way. It's kind of saying that, it's still treasure. It's still, even if it can be a painful experience, it can be something that can be liberating to release it and to be able to kind of create a space within yourself to understand something on a deeper level. So the 7 degrees of Taurus, we get the woman of Samaria at the ancestral well. And the keynote here is the meeting of the traditional past and of the creative spirit pointing to the future. So the symbol refers to a most important but usually narrowly interpreted episode of the Christ mythos. Early in his ministry, Jesus meets a Samaritan woman at an ancestral well. This woman belongs to a tribe despised by the Jews. Moreover, she is unmarried and therefore on the fringe of her own society. It is to just that kind of woman that Jesus reveals that he is the Messiah. I am he, a revelation that he apparently will not bestow even upon his disciples, at least not in words. Words in occultism are the creative factor. What does this mean? Jesus, as the avatar incorporating the Christ impulse, came to replace the old tribal order with a new order based on universal love. It is not to representatives of, or even to men still attached to the old order, that Jesus could reveal his spiritual, evolutionary and society transforming status. Sounds very similar to the Saturn and Uranus energies I was talking about earlier. Saturn being the old paradigm, the old control system, and Christ here is Uranus. It's bringing in that new revolutionary love energy of freedom, and kind of saying, you know, that you don't have to follow a certain dictate to be a good person. So they had instead to reach a point where they could discover his avatarship, as did Peter just before the transfiguration scene. But to the woman of Samaria, who in her openness to love's urgings had already repudiated any narrow subservience to the old order, Jesus could reveal his function. The highest meets the lowest, when this lowest is free from traditional bonds and open to love. The creative future descends first to that which has become chaos. An old order is never open to a new revelation until it has accepted disorder in the name of that power which subsumes all forms of order, i.e. love. In this second stage of the fivefold sequence, a contrasting element enters upon the scene. It is no longer a collective cultural effort based on past knowledge, as in the preceding symbol, but a meeting that introduces into the collective situation a totally new factor which transcends it. A new quality of being is revealed, which renders the old patterns obsolete. And if you're interested in finding out any more about the straight woo, or the Sabian symbol, should I say, there is a link on the page which I will put on the video that I will be uploading, for you to go and check that out for yourselves as well. So that is where I'm going to leave the actual astrology part of it, and I meant to do this earlier, but these are the cards for this full moon. We have the super full moon, of course. Emotions are running high, and as I was saying, with it being the full moon in Scorpio, it does not go any more intense than this energy. And the full supermoon here is about releasing that negativity, whether that's done willingly or whether it's forced out of us in certain situations that are going to kind of be revealed as well. So the full moon is saying surrender to the divine, allow whatever is meant to be, allow whatever is meant to happen, surrender, let it go, believe that what is happening is the right thing, that it's all in divine timing. And lastly, we have the fixed energy, which is hold your vision. So it's kind of saying hold that promise, that potential, that vision of this new future, this new idea of something different that can be created here and is being created here. So interestingly, I haven't read from these cards from a long time, but something kind of pulled me to it, and then I noticed on the back of here this lightning bolts, which kind of fitted in really well with the whole Uranus shocking awakening energy, which really, although it's a full supermoon in Scorpio, which is really intense, again it's all this Uranus energy that is being conjuncted by Venus and Mercury and the Sun this week as well, which is going to just really kind of expand it even more so. And so when I saw this, I just thought, well, that is really apt. I really kind of think that that's the right card to be using at this time. So I'm going to pull a medicine card, a Native American medicine card here, and see what it comes up with for us for the collective full moon in Scorpio reading. Please, source of all, the card for the collective for the Scorpio full moon and all this Uranus energy. Card for, whoops, nope, that's too many, we don't want all of them. Oh, too many. I'm not taking 4 separate cards. 2 maybe, but I'm not doing 4. So, 1, 2 cards, I don't really mind which. 4 is too many. What is the message for the collective at this time for the full moon in Scorpio? For the collective at this time. For the full moon in Scorpio, please. Collective energy at this time. Oops. Full moon in Scorpio. Collective reading at this time. A lot of shuffling. A lot of shuffling. This is why I do most of my shuffling before I do a reading, because sometimes you don't get anything for ages. Nope. Let's see if I can just give it a flick and see if anything changes. Not the easiest of cards to flick. Oh. Interesting. So we have Coyote. Coyote. Trickster energy. And we are being told, Coyote, you devil, you tricked me once more. Must I sit and ponder what you did it for? So there we have the Coyote energy, saying there are thousands of myths and stories about Coyote, the great trickster. Many native cultures call Coyote the medicine dog. If you have pulled this card, you can be sure that some kind of medicine is on its way, and it may or may not be to your liking. Whatever the medicine is, good or bad, you can be sure it will make you laugh, maybe even painfully. You can be sure that Coyote will teach you a lesson about yourself. Coyote has many magical powers, but they do not always work in his favour. His own trickery fools him. He is the master trickster who tricks himself. No one is more astonished than Coyote at the outcome of his own tricks. He falls into his own trap, and yet he somehow manages to survive. He may be banged and bruised by the experience, but he soon goes on his way to even greater error. Forgetting to learn from his mistakes, He may have lost the battle, but he is never beaten. Coyote is sacred. In the folly of his acts, we see our own foolishness. As Coyote moves from one disaster to the next, he refines the art of self-sabotage to sheer perfection. No one can blindly do themselves or others in with more grace and ease than this holy trickster. Coyote takes himself so seriously at times that he cannot see the obvious. For example, the steamroller that is about to run over him. That is why when it hits him, he still cannot believe it. Was that really a steamroller? I better go look, he says, and he's run over once more. Contained within trickster medicine is the humour of the ages, the cosmic joke. Not just on ourselves, but on everyone else. If they are following Coyote or have strong Coyote medicine, someone like this may be able to convince others that a skunk smells like roses, but the fact remains that it is still a skunk. Snooze time is over if you have pulled the Coyote medicine card. Watch out. Your glass house may crash to the ground at any moment. All your self-mirrors may shatter. The divine trickster is dogging you. And you may trip. Coyote scratches under his arm. He does a crazy dance. He catches his tail on fire, playing with matches. He jumps in the fish pond to save himself and nearly drowns. Coyote seduces a concrete statue. Coyote thinks he has found a bone, but it is a rattlesnake. Everyone watches the comedic scene. Coyote is you, me, booby traps, jet aeroplanes with toilets that don't work, blind dates, and all the humorous and whimsical things we encounter along life's way. Get ready for more of the laughs, lots more. Go immediately beneath the surface of your experiences. Ask yourself, what are you really doing and why? Is Coyote your medicine? Are you playing jokes on yourself? Are you trying to fool an adversary? Is someone tricking you? Do you want to give the office geek the phone number of the beautiful new secretary, or do you want to pull a prank on your best friend? When was the last time you did something just because it was crazy and fun? On the other hand, you may not be conscious of your own pathway of foolishness. You may have conned yourself, your family, your friends, or even the public at large into believing that you know what you are doing. But listen, Coyote, you are balled up in your own machinations. You have created a befuddling, bewildering, confounding trick. Pick up the juggler eyes from the ground and put them back in their sockets. See through the genius of your acts of self-sabotage. Find it amusing and laugh, trickster, laugh. If you can't laugh at yourself and your crazy antics, you have lost the game. Coyote always comes calling when things get too serious. The medicine is in laughter and joking, so that new viewpoints may be assumed. If you have Coyote medicine, you may use it to make stuffy old fogies lighten up, to add cheer to a party, or to break a death grip conversation with ease. Look at the positive side of sabotaging nosy questions about your personal life. Have fun telling some gossiper that you just returned from Saint-Tropez in your new Lear jet. So that's an interesting card, an interesting energy. I kind of get from this that even though things are really serious at this time and really intense, that laughter could be the best medicine here. And the best way to get through this is kind of to remember that we're all kind of the same. We're all in it together. We're all the same foolish kind of learning in the same position. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all kind of trying to discover more. So I'm also going to pull a few angel cards here as well to finish the reading off. Also, as it's a Scorpio full moon as well, it could also be a warning of that coyote, that kind of trickster energy as well coming into your life, or things coming out if you are that trickster energy of kind of, you know, be warned, maybe, be careful, be warned that your game is up, that things will be revealed that you didn't necessarily want put out there in the limelight. So what do we have here? Laughter. That's highly amusing. Excuse the pun, but that was kind of what I was just saying. So laughter is a wonderful healer. It shakes our fear and leaves you feeling happier. It shakes out fear, sorry, and leaves you feeling happier, clearer and more relaxed. Remember that angels fly because they take themselves lightly, so make light of difficulties and see the funny side of situations. Laugh at yourself and with others. When you relax and laugh, your angels drop in new suggestions and ideas which can transform difficulty into delight. Laughter is the sunshine which dissolves the darkness, so be merry, joyous and fun-filled. And the affirmation here is, I see the humour in everything. So literally, this seems to be the message we are being given at this time, that the best thing we can do when things get really intense and really overwhelming and really kind of emotionally high is to find something to laugh at. Find, if it's not the funny side of that situation, then find something else that's going to bring some humour into the situation or into your life, so that you have that balance, or you have that release of energy, so that you can release, maybe not release it in an angry kind of revengeful, because that's very much a Scorpio kind of energy, but to laugh at it and release it in that fashion instead. So on that note, I'm going to finish the reading. So thank you very much to those of you who have listened to the end, those of you who are here for me. I really do appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this video, or if you have learned anything from this video, please could you thumbs it up for me, because it makes a huge difference to my channel. It really helps. The more thumbs it gets, the more likes it gets, the more it gets the chance to be seen by more people out there, and the more my message can get passed on, and hopefully kind of help people out there who may be confused and bewildered and kind of wondering what the heck's going on at this time, because it's all a bit madness out there. So would really appreciate it. Also, thank you very, very much to those of you who have already liked my videos, and those of you who have subscribed to my channel. Thank you very much. It is wonderful to have you here. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please could you do so. There is a subscribe button on the video itself or underneath the video somewhere. It's either in one of those two places. It seems to kind of move about. I have nothing to do with that. So again, if you hit the subscribe button, you will come up with a little bell thing. You probably know all this by now. You tap on that and you'll get the videos as and when I put them out. I do all the new moon, the new moon videos, the full moon videos, both the astrology and the tarot. And I also do the zodiac signs as well. So there is a playlist on my channel. If you're interested at all, go and have a look, check that out, see what resonates. There's no time and no dates on any of those apart from the moon videos that I do. The others are dateless and timeless because crap happens all the time. So it just as and when, if it resonates, then it's right for you at that time. And I think that's everything else. Share the video as well if you feel that it's going to be of benefit to anybody, if you feel that they might, you know, learn something from what's happening to them at this time as well. Please feel free to do that too, and comment if you want to make leave me a comment and let me know how you feel about my videos. That's always appreciated as well. I have been away for a while. I have been saying this in all my other videos. I had a Saturn Mercury-Mars square energy, which was very very strong, and it kind of is not really the kind of energy that you can fight against as such. So everything just stopped, it just all came to a halt, and it just didn't feel like the right time to be doing it. So I stopped, but that's past now, so I'm back and I'm here, and I'm going to be carrying on with my channel. So if any of you have been wondering why I haven't been around, that has been the reason. And with all that being said, once again, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching and listening. Please take really good care of yourselves at this time. My brain's quicker than my mouth, unfortunately. And also enjoy this full supermoon in Scorpio. It is going to be intense. So remember to laugh your way through it. Thank you very much. Hopefully see you again soon.